Today on Review This Thing, we're going to review this thing, the iRobot Roomba i3. This is Adrian with Review This Thing, where our goal is to always give you the most honest, thorough, unbiased, unpaid reviews on YouTube. So several years ago, we had a robot vacuum and we really liked it, but I got really tired of having to clean it and empty it every single time we used it. So whenever it quit working really well, we just kind of quit using it and never thought to replace it. Then a couple years ago, I was visiting with my sister and saw that she had a robot vacuum that was a self-emptying one. And that got me thinking I needed to take another look. I was able to get a really good deal on this back in the summer, so I've had this for about 5 months, and I'm ready to tell you what we think. So let's review this thing. You know the drill, let's cover the facts. The first part is fit. So fit may sound like kind of a weird thing when it comes to vacuums, but there are a couple of important things I want to talk about here. Number one, you have to make sure you have enough room for the base station to live. So the base of the base station is just over 12 inches wide and just over 15 inches deep. And then the height of it is right around 19 inches. Now in addition, you're also going to need to put it near a receptacle. So the cord on this thing is right around 4.5 feet. So you have to be at least that close to a receptacle to be able to plug it in. And then you have to have enough room for the iRobot Roomba to have clearance to start its little run. So you need at least 1.5 feet of clearance on either side, as well as 4 feet of clearance in front of it. And it needs to be 4 feet from stairs. The pictures on the website crack me up because in none of them do you ever see a cord or a receptacle, and they have them just placed neatly in these perfect locations. In our house, we were able to find a receptacle that was perfect for it, but beyond that, there maybe were 1, tops 2 that may have worked out. So make sure before you buy one, you have figured out where you're going to let it live. Another thing with fit is that the Roomba vacuum tends to prefer open spaces. So if you have a lot of furniture or small rooms, then it may not work quite as well as you'd like it to. So in our home, we were able to make the iRobot Roomba i3 fit, but I do feel like it could be a challenge for a lot of people. So because of that, I'm going to give fit a 4 out of 5. Now is the iRobot Roomba i3 as advertised. The first thing iRobot advertises is powerful cleaning with 10 times the suction power. I don't have anything to compare it to, so I don't know if it's 10 times the suction power. I will definitely say there are times whenever the robot has finished vacuuming and I can go behind and still find little pieces of debris. So it does a decent job. Not perfect, but much cleaner than it would be without it. They also advertise that it focuses on dirtier areas with dirt direct technology. So I was going to see if I could figure out a way to test it, but I just couldn't figure one out. But I can tell you, our closet is the only room on our main floor that has carpet, and the robot definitely spends more time in our closet, and I can see the marks where it's turned around several times and gone back and forth to make sure it's gotten it clean. They also advertise it as ideal for homes with pets. They use dual surface rubber brushes on the bottom that they say are less likely to have pet hair get stuck in them and clog them up. So we do have a cat that spends some time with us upstairs, and I can definitely tell you that I haven't seen any issues with cat hair clogging it up. However, I also tend to shed a bit. Those of you with long hair know what I'm talking about, so you're going to need to keep a watch on this. The other day I went to clean it, turned it over, and there was a great deal of my hair wrapped around the brushes. Not only those dual surface rubber brushes, but also the rotating side brush, and I also had to clean the hair out of the hubs on the wheels. So make sure, especially if you have long hair, that you're checking this every so often and cleaning those out so they don't get clogged up and quit working. Now, I don't necessarily like that aspect, but to me, it's still much better than me having to actually vacuum. As I mentioned, they also claim that it cleans in neat rows. I know the older versions kind of haphazardly just moved around the room, but with i3, because of that mapping technology, it definitely does things more efficiently and stays in those neat rows versus going all around everywhere. And finally, iRobot advertises that the cleaning bag will last about 60 days before you have to empty it. So as I mentioned, we've had this for 4 or 5 months now, and we've had to empty it at about that 60-day mark. There was one time though where I forgot to pick up our cat's water bowl and it knocked it around and spilled water everywhere. Unfortunately, it sucked up some water, so everything in the vacuum as well as in the tank had gotten wet. So we had to go ahead and change all of that and clean it prior to that 60 days. So overall, I feel like the iRobot Roomba does mostly what they say it's going to do. I mentioned a few things that are kind of close, but not quite. So because of that, I'm going to take a little bit off and give, as advertised, a 4.1 out of 5. Now into construction and durability. There are a few things about construction that I really like. First, and I already mentioned this a little bit, it is a self-emptying vacuum, which to me is the best. Whenever it's finished vacuuming, it just comes back to its little base station, empties itself into the bag that's in this tank. And the wheels are self-adjusting, so if you go to higher surfaces, lower surfaces, changing rooms, or if you're vacuuming on like hardwoods and switch to carpet, something like that, it's able to transition between surfaces and heights. One thing that sets the iRobot Roomba i3 apart from other vacuums for me is the ability to do the smart mapping and control it through the app. Now, while we're talking about smart mapping, I need to prepare you for something. This process actually takes a lot longer than I thought it was supposed to take. So you set it off on a mapping run, it runs all around the house, and it can take an hour or 2 hours or more depending on the size of your house. Then it comes back to recharge, and at that point your map is probably not finished. I think I had to send mine out 3 or 4 times for it to make a complete map of the house. So whenever you're finished with that first run, just know, let it charge and just keep sending it out until it tells you the map is complete. So it's a pretty involved process that you kind of have to commit to that could take a few days depending on your ability to be there with it. Now, when that's done, I think it's really cool. At that point, you're able to create virtual walls and name your rooms right there in the app. That's when the fun really starts. Then you can set up schedules. So on certain days, it can vacuum certain rooms. Now, you don't have to set up a schedule. You can just start the vacuum right from your app, and you can also then choose which rooms you want it to vacuum. Or, my favorite part, you can connect it to your smart home hub. Alexa, ask Jeeves to vacuum the bedroom.
Okay, here's iRobot Home. I'll tell Jeeves to vacuum the bedroom.
I could obviously just pull up my phone and tell it to start, but I think that part's pretty fun. Now, if you don't want to mess with all that, you can just pick up the robot, put it in a room, and hit clean. But if that's all you want to do, you can skip this version and get one that's quite a bit cheaper. Now, here's one thing I really need you to pay attention to. You're going to want to pick up anything in the floor that the robot could suck up and get into it. I picked stuff out of it already, Ziploc bags, charging cords, socks, but luckily I was there with it to take them out so it could finish. At my parents' house, they were not quite so lucky. Somehow it got a hold of some fishing line and it wrapped around the wheel about 5,000 times. And because of that, it actually messed one of the wheels up and we had to replace it. A couple other things that are neat I want to tell you about is whenever it's vacuuming a large space, I've noticed that the robot will go back to its base station and empty and then go back out and finish cleaning. And then I've also noticed if it's doing a really, really big space, it sometimes will go back to the base station and charge itself for a while before it's ready to go out. Now, as far as durability, we've only had it a few months. So far, so good. I told you we did have to replace one of the wheels on my parents, but that was kind of our fault. Overall, it seems to be holding up very well. Now, if you've had an iRobot Roomba i3 for a while, comment below and let us know what you think and what your experience has been. So far, we've been pretty happy. So because of that, we're going to give construction and durability a 4.5 out of 5. Now into testimonials and reviews. Overall, reviews are pretty solid, but you know we like to tell you the complaints that people had. There were a number of people who said that it stopped working after like 60 days, and of course it has a 60-day warranty. We've had it a few months, haven't had that issue. Hopefully it'll stay that way. A number of people also mentioned there's a cleaning head module that goes out after that warranty date. If that happened to you, comment below and let us know about when that was and how they fixed it. A number of people commented that that mapping run process takes forever. We've already talked about that. It kind of does. Several people say it doesn't get all the dirt. We've talked about that too. Definitely not perfect, but gets the job done, I'd say. And then several people mentioned it does get stuck on or under objects. We haven't seen that here, but I know at my parents' house they had a floor lamp that it kept trying to ride over the top of and just kept getting hung up because for some reason it was determined it was going to get over that lamp. There were several other complaints here and there, but those were kind of the most popular. So you know what we do? We tell you the score we found. So for testimonials and reviews, the iRobot Roomba i3 gets a 4.1 out of 5. And finally, should you buy this thing? There are a whole lot of it depends involved. If you're like me and you absolutely hate cleaning, but you want your house to be clean, then having this robot vacuum that just kind of does its thing, comes back, empties itself, and you'll be happy with the job it did as long as it's cleaner than it was before, then this may be exactly what you need. But if you're super particular and your whole house has to be white glove clean and you're going to spend more time following behind it to pick up the stuff that it missed, then this may not be the route you want to go. I would say it does a good job, but it does not get everything. And there are people that would argue for the price that you pay, it should get everything. Retail on the iRobot Roomba i3 with the base station is right at $550. But you can always find it cheaper on Amazon. I think right now, as of today, it was $459. I think when I got it, it was like $399. And especially, you know, with Black Friday coming, it's going to be on sale lots of places. So if you're willing to pay for the convenience of not having to actually vacuum yourself, then for me, this thing is totally worth it. I do wish it was perfect. I wish it picked everything up it was supposed to and never picked up anything it wasn't. But I don't know that that's something you're actually going to find. And I would definitely buy this again. But because it isn't perfect and it isn't cheap, I'm going to take a little bit off and say, should you buy this thing? 4.3 out of 5. Hey, thanks for watching our iRobot Roomba i3 review video. While you're here, take a second and look at a whole bunch of other videos, share them with your friends. If you like them, give them that thumbs up. If you really like them and you haven't, consider subscribing to our channel. Also check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, reviewthisthingtv.com, and you can listen to our podcast on most of your favorite platforms.